The wind on Aurora 7 cut through the thin atmosphere like a knife. Red dust swirled around jagged rock formations, catching the faint light of the distant sun. The colony that humans had built here seemed fragile against the harsh landscape. Buildings rose like tiny metal skeletons, and domed habitats dotted the terrain, holding pockets of warmth in the cold, dry air. Commander Elias Vorn stood at the edge of a cliff, looking over the horizon. He had been on many planets, but Aurora 7 had a way of testing even the most seasoned explorers. Elias was a tall man, with a lean frame that spoke of endurance rather than brute strength. His eyes, sharp and dark, scanned the landscape with the precision of someone who had learned to see danger before it arrived. Behind him, his team moved carefully, their suits humming softly as the environmental regulators kept them alive. "Another set of ruins spotted," Elias said, pointing toward a cluster of metallic structures half buried in the red dust. "Looks like whatever left these didn't want anyone to find them." The structures were ancient, taller than any human building, yet unlike anything they had seen before. Smooth, metallic surfaces reflected faint light, and strange patterns were etched into every surface. Symbols twisted and turned in ways that made the eye dizzy. "This place is amazing," whispered Lieutenant Jara Mendez, a young engineer with a love for ancient tech. Her voice carried a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "Do you think it's functional?" Soft lights activated along the walls, tracing the symbols with an eerie glow. The team spread out, carefully scanning each room. Some chambers contained devices that pulsed with faint energy, while others had holographic interfaces that flickered like broken memories of the alien civilization that had created them. Then came Lyra Tessa. She was a new addition to the team, an alien linguist assigned as a cultural liaison. Lyra's species had a complex way of communicating, often hiding facial expressions as a form of etiquette. Today, her face was partially covered by a visor, but her eyes betrayed a sharp intelligence. She moved silently, her hands brushing lightly over the symbols as if trying to feel their meaning rather than simply see it. Elias noticed her hesitation. "You don't have to hide," he said gently. "We're all here to learn." "I am not accustomed to surprise or failure in front of others." They required not only logic but intuition, a combination that humans had yet to fully understand. Lyra guided them, pointing out patterns and sequences that had meaning in her culture but were completely foreign to humans. Despite this, the humans worked tirelessly. Jara rigged a portable interface to mimic the energy flows she observed, while other team members tried to deduce the purpose of rotating panels and hidden compartments. Every failure was met with frustration, but never defeat. Humans thrived in problem-solving under pressure, and Elias reminded them constantly, "Adaptation is our strength. We survive because we find ways, even when others don't." Then in the largest chamber they found it, a device that pulsed with blue energy floating slightly above the ground. It was unlike anything they had seen, a perfect fusion of technology and art. Symbols swirled across its surface, changing as if alive. Lyra stepped forward, her hands trembling slightly as she traced a pattern. Elias and his team watched, waiting. This is incredible," Lyra said finally, her voice barely audible. She hesitated, then lowered her visor completely, hiding her face. I did not expect this. You might solve what my species considered impossible." "Wait, are you saying we can do this?" "Show me the way." Where Lyra saw a single path, they saw alternatives. Where her species might calculate, humans experimented. A lever pulled in one chamber caused a ripple of energy in another, a chain reaction that no alien logic had predicted. Panels shifted, energy flowed differently, and the device responded. At one point, a sudden surge of energy caused alarms to sound. The humans froze, unsure of the next step. Lyra stepped forward, her hand hovering over the control panel. "It is dangerous, but your approach, it works." The room pulsed with energy, symbols lighting up in a synchronized pattern, and then silence. The device had accepted their solution. It hovered steadily, no longer flickering or pulsing erratically. Lyra looked up, her visor trembling slightly. She hid her face again, a wave of embarrassment washing over her. I did not expect this," she admitted. Her voice was soft but carried awe. I underestimated humans. Your species, your approach, it surpasses what we thought possible. You trust intuition where we rely on certainty. It is remarkable. I am ashamed I did not foresee it." Humans had been put to the test, facing technology far beyond their understanding, and they had succeeded, not because they were perfect, but because they were human. Their imperfections, creativity, and courage had allowed them to surpass expectations. Lyra finally lifted her visor slightly, her eyes meeting Elia's S. You are extraordinary," she said, almost in a whisper. I did not think it possible." The humans had passed the first challenge, but the ruins still held secrets, tests, and dangers beyond imagination. Jara turned to Elias, her face lit with excitement. "Do you think we can handle what's next?" "That's what makes us extraordinary." Outside, the winds of Aurora 7 howled, but inside the ruins, humans and aliens worked together, bridging gaps of culture and species, proving that courage and ingenuity could overcome even the most formidable challenges. As the team moved deeper into the ruins, Elias felt a growing sense of anticipation. The planet was harsh, the alien technology baffling, and the unknown stretched before them like a dark ocean. Yet, for the first time in his career, he realized that humans were not just surviving, they were beginning to leave their mark. In a galaxy full of species who doubted them, humans had just proven they could surpass expectations, not through perfection, but through heart, courage, and an unyielding will to succeed. And somewhere in the shadows, Lyra watched them, her face hidden but her thoughts clear. The species she had thought would fail was extraordinary. The first challenge was over, but the real tests had only begun. The deeper they went into the ruins, the stranger the environment became. The walls twisted at angles that defied normal geometry, corridors curved in impossible loops, and rooms seemed to exist in multiple places at once. The air hummed with low-frequency energy, vibrating through the soles of their boots. Elias led the team carefully, every step measured. The ruins were alive in a sense, responding to the presence of humans in ways that no machine should. Lyra moved silently beside him, her visor lowered as always. She had grown accustomed to the humans' energy, their unpredictability. It fascinated her. Each time the humans acted in ways her species would never, she felt a mixture of embarrassment and awe. She was beginning to understand that their instincts, their errors, even their hesitations, were part of what made them uniquely capable. The first chamber they entered was enormous, stretching far above their heads. Holographic symbols floated in the air, rotating slowly, casting shifting patterns of light across the room. In the center floated a platform etched with even more complex symbols, glowing faintly. Elias paused, studying the scene. "This must be the next test," he said. "Judging by the patterns, it isn't just technology, it's a puzzle or a challenge. Be ready for anything. Then maybe our way will work better." Humans had to guess, test, and sometimes fail to proceed. The team worked in shifts, each member trying different approaches. When a sequence failed, energy pulses shot across the room, harmless but startling. Lyra would hide her face behind her visor every time a human tried a solution she had not anticipated. "It is humbling," she admitted finally. "I cannot believe your species sees solutions that my people would never consider." A strange warmth radiated from the walls and the symbols glowed more brightly. Lyra's eyes widened and she lowered her visor slightly, her hands trembling. "You, humans," she whispered. "You surpass what I thought possible. The risk, the creativity, it is beyond expectation. Your guidance is invaluable, but we're not just following, you're learning too." Lyra's species would have analyzed and calculated, but humans relied on intuition and teamwork. For the first time, Lyra found herself genuinely surprised. Each adjustment the humans made created solutions she could not have predicted. She realized that their errors were not failures. They were part of a process that allowed them to see new possibilities. She hid her face behind her visor, embarrassed that she had assumed humans were inferior. Suddenly, the ground trembled. A surge of energy from one of the nodes shot upward, lighting the chamber in blinding blue light. The team froze. Jara shouted, "Elias, the pattern is breaking. Trust your instincts." You did it. I never imagined this outcome." "Not because you are flawless, but because you improvise. You create solutions when certainty is impossible. That is remarkable." One required them to disable a security system that could have crushed them under tons of stone if triggered. Humans experimented, analyzed, and sometimes risked small failures to learn the correct pattern. Each time, Lyra watched, astonished, hiding her face in a mixture of embarrassment and admiration. At one point, they entered a room with walls entirely covered in mirrors. A holographic puzzle floated in the center, and it seemed to multiply endlessly in the reflections. Humans, unlike Lyra's species, did not panic. They worked methodically, testing one reflection at a time, using shadows and movement to distinguish real elements from illusions. Slowly, piece by piece, they solved the puzzle. Lyra's voice shook. How can you think this way?" she asked, finally raising her visor to look at Elias. "You see patterns that are unimaginable. My species would have failed here. We rely on certainty, and certainty is absent. You thrive in the absence of certainty. I am ashamed I did not foresee it." "That's why we survive." The team hesitated for a moment, measuring the risks. Lyra stood beside them, her hands on her visor. "I cannot do this alone. Your species, you must act as one. Alone, failure is certain. Together, perhaps you can succeed." Step by step, node by node, human coordination and intuition allowed them to progress where others might have failed. When one member made a misstep, another corrected it instantly. The room seemed to react, energy beams shifting unpredictably, but the humans adapted in real time. Lyra guided them, translating alien logic into a framework they could manipulate, but she marveled at their independent thinking. Finally, the last node activated. The energy beams dissolved, leaving the room silent. The platform in the center of the room pulsed one final time, then stabilized. The humans had succeeded. Lyra removed her visor completely. Tears glimmered in her eyes. I am humbled. You humans, you exceed what I ever imagined. Your species is extraordinary." "You are remarkable." Every challenge had revealed more about the ruins, more about themselves, and more about what it meant to be human. Lyra, now walking openly with her face uncovered, followed them, a mixture of awe and respect in her gaze. For the first time, she allowed herself to think beyond embarrassment. She realized that humans were not simply surviving, they were thriving. Their unpredictability, courage, and ingenuity allowed them to do what her species could not. She had underestimated them, and the truth had taken her words away. Outside, the winds of Aurora 7 howled, but inside the ruins, humans pressed onward, leaving a trail of ingenuity and courage in their wake. They had passed the second sequence of challenges, but the ruins still held secrets and dangers that could test them in ways they had never imagined. Elias looked ahead, sensing both anticipation and unease. "Stay alert. The further we go, the more we'll see. But remember, no matter the challenge, humans endure. That is what sets us apart." I have never seen a species like yours. I am honored to witness it, truly." And in that moment, Elias understood that whatever came, humanity had the ability to surpass expectation. No matter the trap, no matter the test, no matter the enemy, humans would survive, and they would thrive. The corridors of the ruins narrowed, spiraling deeper into the heart of the ancient structure. Light glimmered off metallic walls, reflecting patterns that shifted as if they had a life of their own. Elias led the team with steady determination. Each step forward carried both anticipation and caution. The trials they had already faced had tested intellect, courage, and intuition, but something told him that the ultimate test awaited them at the core. Lyra walked beside him, her visor now permanently raised. Her earlier embarrassment had faded, replaced by a quiet admiration. The humans had exceeded every expectation she had held. She had watched them improvise solutions that no species, including her own, could have predicted. And yet, the ruins still held more mysteries, more challenges that might truly push humanity to its limits. The team entered a massive chamber. It was unlike anything they had seen before. The walls were translucent, glowing with a soft, pulsating light. At the center floated a platform shaped like a three-dimensional puzzle. Symbols, unlike any they had encountered, rotated endlessly above it, forming a pattern that seemed infinite. The air hummed with energy, thick and tangible, pressing against their chests. Elias studied the platform carefully. "This is it," he said. "The heart of the ruins. Everything else has led to this moment. This will determine if we truly understand what these tests were designed to teach. This chamber, it measures more than intellect or courage. It measures balance, the harmony between thought, intuition, and morality. My species created it to assess whether a civilization is ready for the knowledge within. Alone, you would not pass, but together." Her eyes met Elias, full of awe. "Perhaps you can." The platform responded immediately to their presence, light streaking along its edges in complex sequences. Symbols shifted and hovered in patterns that defied comprehension. Jara stepped forward first, analyzing the energy flows with her scanner. "It's not just a puzzle," she said. "It's alive in a way, like it's watching us. Then we give it a reason to trust us." Each member adapted quickly, learning from mistakes and building on successes. Lyra observed, her hands trembling slightly. "I cannot believe this," she whispered. "Your species, you anticipate consequences in ways even I cannot comprehend. You are extraordinary." Humans thrived under pressure. Their strength lay not in flawless calculation, but in resilience, the ability to recover, adjust, and continue. Every attempt brought them closer, each failure refined their approach. Suddenly, one of the energy nodes activated unexpectedly, sending a surge of light across the chamber. The platform shifted violently, and the symbols moved faster than before. The team froze for a split second, then Elias barked, "Move, trust your instincts." Their intuition allowed them to see connections that no calculation could reveal. Slowly, the chaos began to settle. Energy flows aligned, symbols locked into place, and the platform stabilized. Lyra covered her face briefly, overwhelmed. When she lifted her visor again, her eyes were wide with astonishment. I cannot believe this," she said softly. "You humans, you surpass every expectation. I am humbled beyond words." Holographic panels rose, revealing an alien interface filled with knowledge, designs, and energy sources beyond comprehension. The humans stared, realizing the magnitude of what they had unlocked. This is beyond anything my species anticipated," Lyra murmured. "They assumed humans would never reach this. They assumed failure. And yet here you are. I have never witnessed a species capable of this level of ingenuity, courage, and unity. Truly, your species is remarkable." It was not perfection that had allowed them to succeed, but adaptability, resilience, and creativity. Lyra remained close to Elias, guiding him through the alien logic she understood. The creators of this structure believed only a species that balanced intellect, intuition, and morality could survive. You embody all three, but in ways we never anticipated. That is why you succeeded. Symbols danced in patterns that resembled applause if such a thing existed for machines. The humans stood together, tired but triumphant. They had faced the ultimate test and emerged victorious. Lyra finally smiled openly, her previous embarrassment gone. I am honored to witness this," she said. "To think I doubted humans, I have never been so wrong." The ruins had challenged them at every turn, but humans had thrived not through brute force or perfect calculation, but through resilience, collaboration, and courage. As the team prepared to leave the chamber, Elias looked back at the glowing platform. "This is just the beginning," he said quietly. "There are more challenges ahead in the galaxy, but now we know humans can surpass expectations. Even those who doubt us will see our strength." The wind outside howled over Aurora 7, but inside the humans had conquered fear, uncertainty, and complexity. Elias reflected on the trials they had faced. Each chamber had tested a different aspect of humanity: logic, courage, teamwork, and intuition. And humans had passed not because they were flawless, but because they adapted. They learned from failure, innovated in the face of danger, and trusted each other when uncertainty threatened to overwhelm them. Lyra walked beside him, her visor removed entirely. "I have seen many species," she said quietly, "but none have the spirit of humans. None can thrive where you thrive. Your species is unlike any I have known. That's because we don't just survive, we evolve, we adapt, and we never give up. That's the human way." And yet they had triumphed. Lyra paused, taking a deep breath. I will never doubt humans again," she said. "You have taken my words away with truth. You are extraordinary." The team began the long journey back to the colony, carrying with them knowledge that could change the course of human history. Every challenge they had overcome, every risk they had taken, had prepared them for what lay ahead. They were humans, and humans adapted. Humans thrived, and in a galaxy full of doubt, their light would shine brighter than any star. Elias glanced at his team one last time before stepping into the shuttle. "Remember this moment," he said. "Remember that no challenge is too great. We are human, we endure, we adapt, and we always find a way." The ancient civilization had created tests meant to challenge and perhaps break them. But humans had not only survived, they had triumphed, and the universe would never underestimate humanity again. The stars stretched out before them, endless and full of opportunity. And in that moment, Elias knew one truth: humans were ready for anything.